From Blue Star Crochet. Welcome to another stitch tutorial. In today's tutorial I would like to show you how to work this beautiful grit stitch. Sometimes you may see it referred to as lemon peel stitch or the griddle stitch. There are a few names by which this stitch goes, but at the end of the day it's a very simple basic crochet stitch that creates this beautiful subtle texture. It is completely reversible. If I show you the other side, so it looks exactly the same on both sides of your work. So it's a beautiful stitch you could use for items that obviously both sides will be shown. As you can see, I have used this stitch for a simple scarf that I've designed, and I'm excited to show you how to work this stitch in today's tutorial. All you will need to know is the single crochet and double crochet stitch, and obviously chains. So let's get into the tutorial. So for this stitch to work, you will need to chain multiples of 2 plus 2. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick swatch and I'm going to chain 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so I chained 12 just to do a quick swatch for you. And we're going to basically alternate the single crochet and double crochet stitch, and on the following row we're going to alternate double crochet and single crochet stitch, so you'll get this beautiful kind of crunched up texture. Okay, so I chained 12 for this swatch. As I said, if you wanted to increase the number of chains for a larger project, you need to keep to multiples of 2 plus 2. Okay, so I'm going to start working into second chain from the hook, and I'm going to start with single crochet. So that's the first single crochet. Okay, then into the next stitch I'm going to work double crochet, so yarn over and work a double crochet into the next stitch. Then I'm going to work single crochet into the following stitch. Okay, and as you might have guessed, it's another double crochet into the following stitch. And basically I'm going to repeat this all the way across the foundation chain. So you're simply alternating single crochet with double crochet all the way across like this. Oh, I've got a naughty hair. And one more double crochet, which then brings me onto the very last chain, and we're going to place single crochet into the last chain of the foundation chain right there. Okay, so this is the first row, and as you can see, it's already on the back. It's starting to create this little bumpy texture, so it's a subtle texture. So we're going to turn, and I'm going to start the second row, and we need to, because the last stitch is a single crochet, we need to start the second row with a double crochet. Second stitch of the previous row is a double crochet, so we're going to work a single crochet into that stitch. Okay, so this is row 2, and I'm going to start with chain 3, and this chain 3 will count as the first double crochet. Okay, so I'm not going to work into the stitch at the bottom of the 3 chain because this is our first double crochet stitch. Okay, let me just loosen this last chain a little bit because we will need to work into that one. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the second stitch, which is the double crochet, and I'm going to work 1 single crochet into that stitch. Then, as you can see, the next stitch is single crochet in a previous row, so I'm going to work a double crochet into that stitch. Okay, and this is basically the pattern we're going to repeat for the rest of the second row. So a rule of thumb is basically to work single crochet into a double crochet stitch from the previous row and vice versa. Okay, so that's how you get sort of that subtle texture, that sort of crimpled look on the other side. Okay, now I'm going to I've got to the very last stitch, so I'm going to work double crochet into the last stitch. Okay, so here we go. As you can see, the texture is now starting to appear on both sides. So for row 3, and this is basically the indicator, so when you look at your very first stitch of the previous row, so I know I ended the last row on a double crochet stitch, so basically the next row will start with the opposite stitch. So for row 3, I'm going to chain 1. Now chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, so I'm going to work into the stitch right at the bottom of the chain 1, and I'm going to place single crochet in that stitch. Okay, and basically once you work the first stitch, then you will know what to alternate on that row. So I've started with a single crochet, and I'm going to carry on with double crochet, then back to single crochet, double, and this is basically alternating the stitch all the way across the row like this. And I just want to get to the beginning of previous row. So if you can remember, in row 2 we kind of chained 3 to start the row, and my last stitch I worked is a double crochet here. So I'm going to place 1 single crochet into the top of the beginning 3 chain from previous row like this, and that's it, row 3 complete. So here is a little swatch. As you can see, it's starting to give you that subtle sort of crumpled texture like this. So row 4 again, when I look at the first stitch from this is very useful for when you kind of put your work down and then you pick it back up and you think, okay, so what did I do? The trick is to look at your very sort of first stitch or the last stitch of the row that you created. So as you can see, that's a single crochet. So when I turn, I know that I need to place the opposite stitch into the stitch that's in front of me. So as I can see, this is the single crochet. So to start the next row, I need to work double crochet into this stitch. So I'm going to simply chain 3 instead of the double crochet. That counts as the first one. And then again, next stitch in front of me is a double crochet from previous row. So I'm just going to work single crochet. And like I said, once you work out what your first stitch of that row should be, then you're just going to go on and sort of alternate the different stitches, the 2 stitches, sort of single and double crochet. You just need to alternate them to finish the row like this. So I'm gonna work the last double crochet of that row. And sort of rule of thumb again, the stitch you start with, the stitch you start the row with should be the exact same stitch you finish the row with. So that's another thing you can use to sort of check whether you're doing it correctly, that the first stitch should match the last stitch of the same row. Okay, so sometimes you can get a little bit like, oh, am I doing it right? Sort of, am I alternating them right? Or sometimes, it happened to me too, you can kind of by mistake get carried away and work 2 single crochet one after the other, and then sort of the whole sequence is then sort of out of sync, and that's the one way you can check whether you've done the row correctly, that the stitch you started with, you should end the row with exactly the same stitch. Okay, so let's just do one more row together. I'm gonna check. So again, I'm gonna look at the last stitch I worked. That looks like a double crochet, which indicates that the row I'm about to start needs to start with a single crochet. So I'm going to chain one. Now this chain one doesn't count as a stitch, so I'm going to place one single crochet into the very first stitch. And once you know that this is the single crochet, then you can just go ahead and start alternating single crochet with double. Like this. Here we go. So I'm just going to carry on to the end of the row like this, and this is the beginning 3 chain, so I'm going to place one single crochet into the top. And again, you can check on yourself. So I started with single crochet and I ended the row with single crochet 2. So that seems that we did okay and didn't get confused as to what stitch to place where. Okay, so that's just a little swatch of the crochet grit stitch. As I said, sometimes you'll find it that some designers or some makers call it the lemon peel stitch or griddle stitch or grit stitch. That's the 3 terms I've come across, and again, it's reversible on both sides. So yeah, I hope you found today's tutorial helpful, and I hope you'll give this cute little stitch a go. It's a really good stitch. As you can see, it stretches nicely both ways, so it would be perfect stitch to use for garments, something kind of transitional, like a spring or maybe fall garment. It would be very nice. I kind of use this stitch for a scarf because it's reversible. So normally when you wear a scarf, you can see both sides, can we? So it's a good stitch to use for something where both sides will be on show. Blanket, that's another good project. So yeah, so I hope you enjoyed today's video tutorial. If you would like to see some more, subscribe to my YouTube channel, give this video a like, or leave me a comment below of what you think or what you would use the stitch for. And I will be providing a written version on my blog, bluestarcrochet.com. If you don't want to miss any updates of free patterns or tutorials, please subscribe to my newsletter. I'll leave the link in the description for this video. Thank you for watching.